Avengers Endgame is right around the corner. With such a monumental movie brewing just on the horizon, I figured I'd take advantage of the calm before the storm and make a list. We've seen quite a few big baddies in the MCU. A select few are fantastic and will go down as comic book movie legends. Others, well, suffice it to say that there's been some ups and downs. Mainly downs. But today I'm going to go through all the major villains in the MCU up until Endgame. But before we go in, this list is just my personal picks and opinions. Your list probably differs, so let me know who your favorite and least favorite MCU villains are down in the comments box. There will also be a few minor villains I'll be skipping. And without any further ado, let's begin. Keep in mind of potential spoilers. Coming in at the bottom of the list at number 21 is Abomination from the Hulk. Pretty much his only reason to exist was so that Hulk could destroy more buildings. Really dumb, no interest factor, just a forgettable blob of a villain. Number 20 is Whiplash from Iron Man 2. Let's just forget that Iron Man 2 ever happened. The only upside to the movie was the introduction of Black Widow. Whiplash was such a silly, forgettable villain. He really only has his whips for a single scene before Tony defeats him. Whiplash then spends the rest of the movie clamoring for his pet bird. Just an odd villain. Number 19 is Malekith. Again, let's forget that this villain ever existed. He was so horrendously bland, with such a generic destroy-the-world motivation. I honestly can't remember a single line from him. Thor: The Dark World was a forgettable movie to begin with, but man did Malekith make it even worse. Number 18 is Ronan the Accuser from Guardians of the Galaxy. Lee Pace wasn't awful in this movie, but Ronan was just meh. He was like Thanos' apprentice or something. He never really did anything truly terrifying, although the scene where he uses the Infinity Stone is pretty neat. I didn't hate him, and I actually liked his appearance in Captain Marvel, but he just didn't really make much of an impact at all. Number 17 is Alexander Pierce from Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Look, The Winter Soldier is an amazing film, easily one of Marvel's best. However, Alexander Pierce was just a bit bland for me. He may have been ruthless and killed many without remorse, but he just wasn't active enough. Almost all of his screen time is in a single room at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, and even though he had some tense scenes, his James Bond villain nature just bumps him down further than he could have been. Number 16 is Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. I mean, can we even call her a villain? She would have been higher up on my list if she just wasn't so confusing. I actually liked how she was portrayed as a sympathetic character, but how the film contradicts itself with her portrayal is just jarring. First she's a typical villain, then maybe not, and then she's a villain again, then she isn't, except she is, never mind, she's not. If they'd kept a consistent tone with her, she probably would have been higher up on my list. Number 15 is Yon-Rogg from Captain Marvel. While a twist villain, Yon-Rogg is a snooze fest. He just is very typical, plus Carol defeats him at the end of the movie without a care in the world. He could have been a lot more interesting if he was an actual threat, but he never is. Very forgettable, but he could have been a lot more interesting if they had actually, given him a threat level. Number 14 is Yellow Jacket from Ant-Man. Yellow Jacket is another very generic and bland villain. I did enjoy his unhinged personality, and there were several scenes that really cemented him as a madman, but he just still wasn't really all that interesting to me. His motives were just more money, more power, blah blah blah. I didn't hate him like a lot of other Marvel fans, but he's also nothing special. Number 13 is Dormammu from Doctor Strange. Again, wasted potential. He's only in the climax, and his appearance is pretty trippy. Granted, his power set could have been used better, and it would have been cooler if he'd actually invaded Earth, only for Strange to defeat him before he can, but that didn't happen. This is a villain that could have been better if only he had been used more fully. Number 12 is the Mandarin from Iron Man 3. Why, Marvel? Why waste Ben Kingsley like this? If Marvel had scrapped the dumb plot twist with the Mandarin being an actor, and actually have had Ben Kingsley be the true Mandarin, he easily would have been near the top of my list. He was hyped up so good, and the scenes where he appears were genuinely unnerving. Nope, he's a loopy nitwit actor. Such a waste. Number 11 is Obadiah Stone from Iron Man. The very first MCU villain, and also one of the more forgettable ones. The one scene that saves him from being near the bottom of my list is when he shuts down Tony's arc reactor, leaving him paralyzed on his couch. This scene actually made me anxious for Tony, and was a genuinely good scene. Otherwise, he's pretty generic and boring, and the final fight with him isn't all that exciting. Number 10 is Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Ego is a great plot twist villain, and is an interesting concept for a character. I mean, he's a living planet, and is basically a god, with a lowercase g, of course, as he said. His relationship with Quill started interesting, and the gradual reveal of him being a villain was done pretty well. However, when he's revealed to be the villain, he gets a lot less interesting. Using Quill as a battery of sorts to fuel his goal of taking over the universe. Definitely not the worst MCU villain, but if they kept up interest, he could have been a lot better. Number 9 is Zemo from Captain America Civil War. He's responsible for the breakup of the Avengers, and he doesn't even have any powers. Zemo was frankly, I think, underrated in Civil War. He should have got more scenes, and although he definitely works as a villain, his evil plan is so convoluted and so reliant on conveniences that it broke immersion in the film a bit for me. I wish he had more screen time, and even though the film needed to focus more on the rift between Iron Man and Captain America, Zemo still worked as a villain, even if he wasn't given the attention I think he deserved. Number 8 is Hela from Thor Ragnarok. While I didn't love Thor Ragnarok as much as a lot of other people, I did enjoy Cate Blanchett's portrayal of Hela. She was a genuine threat and extremely powerful. She looked the part, had a great action sequence with the Asgardian army, and was acted quite well. Her only downfall was her slightly generic dialogue and how she injected humor in a lot of places where it didn't fit, which was a running problem in Ragnarok. Otherwise, she's probably one of my favorite Marvel villains. Number 7 is Ultron from Avengers Age of Ultron. Hey, I get it. A lot of people didn't like Ultron, and I understand why. A lot of his dialogue is cheesy, his motivations are generic, and he acts like a sarcastic human most of the time. However, I found Ultron to be interesting. He was a creation of Tony Stark, and his design and some of his action scenes were really well done. His fight with Captain America was a really awesome scene. He isn't perfect, and I wish he had a slightly different set of lines to work with, but I did enjoy him. Number 6 is Ulysses Klaue from Black Panther. I love Andy Serkis. He's easily one of my favorite actors. From his performances in Lord of the Rings and Planet of the Apes, he's just an all-around great actor. His performance as the unhinged Klaue was just so enjoyable to me. He was such a gleeful villain, and it was such a joy to watch him on screen. Granted, he had several cheesy lines, but overall I really enjoyed his performance. Number 5 is Killmonger from Black Panther. I know, shocking that he isn't number 1 on my list, but there's a few reasons for that. First, I think Killmonger's motivations are the best of any MCU villain aside from Thanos. You understand him and you can empathize with him. His level of depth was extremely well done, and I genuinely feared him. However, my problem with him is how he's acted. He just seems like too cocky and, dare I say, punky through a lot of the movie. I kind of wish he was more villainous or serious or I don't know, with how he delivered some of his dialogue. Still, he was a great villain, easily one of Marvel's best. Number 4 is Red Skull from Captain America: The First Avenger. I may be a bit biased since Hugo Weaving is one of my favorite actors, but I just loved him as the Red Skull. Sure, his motivations and dialogue were generic, but he just had such a presence to him. Granted, that was probably mostly due to Hugo Weaving's acting, but he still had such a great villainous nature to him. I feared him, he felt like a threat, and he had a few really good action scenes. Really, his only flaw was being a bit too generic in a lot of his motivations. Number 3 is Vulture from Spider-Man: Homecoming. Initially, I was surprised to hear that Michael Keaton would be playing the Vulture. All doubt faded away when I saw him in the movie. The scene where Vulture guesses Peter's identity is one of my favorite scenes in the entire MCU. It was so intense and incredibly well acted by both Keaton and Tom Holland. Plus, Vulture's motivations were realistic. He lost his job at the hands of the Avengers, and logically he wanted revenge. Just an amazing villain. Plus, who doesn't love Michael Keaton? Number 2 is Loki from the Avengers and all of the Thor films. He's the OG good Marvel villain. His dynamic with Thor was fantastic, and easily one of the best parts of the MCU as a whole. His motivations, while kind of generic in some ways, is done so well over the course of all of his movies, and he was just acted so incredibly good by Tom Hiddleston. Seeing him change throughout the MCU was also great to watch. He went from trying to kill Thor in the Avengers to fighting alongside Thor in Ragnarok to actually giving his life for Thor in Infinity War. Although he does betray Thor quite a bit along the way, I never got tired of seeing him on screen. In the original Avengers, he was such a dramatic presence, and in all honesty, he was a tragic villain. If he wasn't so mischievous, he could have been a better man. Seeing him flip-flop around with his loyalty kept the audience on their toes. I dearly hope he isn't truly dead. And here we are. My number one favorite MCU villain is Thanos from Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Of all the villains in the MCU, he had the most intense presence and brought the highest stakes. He's arguably the best superhero movie villain since Heath Ledger's Joker. No hero was safe with him around, and his motivations, while twisted, were actually relatable. He wanted to help people in his own way, and he makes genuine sacrifices to achieve his goals. He was played by Josh Brolin to perfection, and he gets so many incredible and quotable lines. He was incredibly powerful, evil, and sympathetic. He remains my favorite MCU villain of them all. Thanks for watching my ranking of all of the MCU villains. As I said, your lists may differ from mine. Who are your favorite and least favorite villains and why? I hope you guys enjoy, and I also hope you're ready to experience Endgame. If you did enjoy, then leave a like, and until next time,